All right, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Giant Take podcast. And today we're going to be talking about, as of right now, at 9:26 p.m. on Monday, March 13th, the update when it comes to the New York Giants in this 2023 free agency window. My name is Josh, and I'm joined by my friend and co-host Alex. First of all, Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. It's been a busy day of Twitter refreshes and a lot of stress here. A lot of stress that nothing was going to get done, but the Giants actually did make quite a few moves today, bringing back some of their own and obviously getting a couple new guys as well. So I'm excited to talk about it. I was joking with Josh. We're like doing an NBA back-to-back here, back-to-back nights of episodes, back-to-back late nights grinding on episodes. So it's going to be a fun night tonight, and hopefully we get some more news and stuff tomorrow to talk about as the league season gets closer and closer. Starts Wednesday at 4 p.m. But I'm excited.
Yeah, no, I definitely am too. And we actually have some signings that the Giants made today, not just in-house, but out of house as well. So we're definitely going to get into those, as well as also talk about some people that the Giant, or some, I guess, guys that we even talked about that the Giants could end up targeting going to other teams too. And don't worry, that Twitter refreshing will not stop throughout this episode, because we really do not want to miss anything between the time that this is recorded, edited, and then eventually released. We hope for the best that we do not miss anything again. Although I don't know how late Joe Shane likes to stay up on school nights for his kids, and Brian Dable, same thing. Does Joe Shane have children? I think he does. Right?
I think he does. Brian Dable has 7 of them, so he's busy.
Yeah, so he's definitely busy. He doesn't want to stay up too late on the school night. So I hope nothing gets done here after this 9:30 time. That's why we're recording so late. But anyway, enough of the chats. Let's go to the Giants re-signings. First of all, we have the special teams get addressed bright and early this morning on our way to school. Punter Jamie Gillen gets a 2-year, $4 million deal, up to $5 million. With incentives, I assume. Yeah, and then the long snapper Casey Kreider, just no surprise there, because he's been doing a good job with his snaps to both Gillen as well as our kicker Graham Gano over the past few years. So he gets that 1-year extension as well for what we assume is a vet minimum deal. We don't have the details on that one just yet. But I can speak on Kreider by saying that with the success of Graham Gano recently, there's no reason to not bring him back. Just you have the chemistry there. With Gillen, though, it's a little questionable. I wanted to see a new punter get signed by the New York Giants. I thought Gillen was unsuccessful this past season in most of his punt attempts, although if you look at the numbers, it's not much like that. But it was just kind of, as a Giants fan, when you're sitting back and watching the game, punts, and I'm going to say it, punts look like, I'm not going to say the easiest thing, but it's a thing as a fan that you think you have the most insurance of kind of getting the punt away. It's like kind of like one of the stationary things of the game that you're just like, okay, we're going to punt it. We'll see how far it goes. The yardage about how it goes gets, determined by how good your punter is, but at least getting the punt off is key. Gillen had multiple attempts this season where, we have obviously that skipping punt where it bounced and then he picked it up and then kicked it, playing, some rugby in there as he is the Scottish Hammer. So that's the one thing where I was like, that's a little bit questionable. So we'll have to see what he does. But again, a developing guy, as I saw on Twitter today, he is only 25 years old, so there's room for improvement. And
he looks like he's 8, but he's not apparently. Who knew?
So we'll have to see. And that's our special team signings for the day. Alex, you can go to the other two.
Yeah, I mean, just touching on Gillen real quick, I'm not a fan of this move really at all. I was hoping we'd switch it up a little bit of punter. Just too much inconsistency. Yes, he had some good punts, but for every good punt, he had an atrocious punt. So I'd rather have some guys with a pretty good punt consistently than that. So I think maybe not the best decision, but maybe it seems like Joe Shane and this front office and this coaching staff see something in Jamie Gillen that the rest of us, it seems like, do not. But anyway, I'll move on from the special teams. 2 more guys that the Giants have brought back. They brought back restricted free agent Wyatt Davis, offensive lineman, interior guy on a 1-year deal. Also probably a minimum deal. We don't know the details on that as well. Good to bring him back, another developmental prospect there. And then Matt Breida, the only big one from today, if you want to call it a big one in terms of Giants re-signings. He is returning on a 1-year, but this time a $2.3 million deal, up to $2.3 million with incentives. So he will be returning. Obviously, had a whole bunch of crucial plays for the Giants. But I don't think this necessarily stops them from adding in the running back department in the draft. I think that's going to be an area where they do look to add in the mid rounds, 4th, 5th, 6th round, maybe even as early as the 3rd if they see the value there. But yeah, I was happy to see Matt Breida back. And I really feel like, he's just another dimension to add to that backfield. It kind of felt like last season he was the only dimension you could add to the backfield besides Saquon Barkley. But hopefully this season we can add another back to kind of have a nice committee there behind Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, Alex, I definitely agree with you about the draft. I think that the Giants, with their 11 picks this year, they do have some room to work, although there are much more areas where positions are needed. I think maybe another undrafted free agent guy they might pick up after. I don't think they draft a running back necessarily.
I guarantee, I'd give it a 80-90% chance they draft a running back. I think it's
we can bet on it if you want.
All right, we're not going to bet on it.
I'll put $5. You want to put $5 to Giants?
I've gotten excited about them drafting positions before, and they never do it. So I'm not doing that. But I think they will do it.
So what I was saying was, I think that they'll sign probably no reason to not sign another undrafted free agent running back, not wide receiver. However, they've done that the past couple of years now with Jashawn Corbin. I think he was an undrafted free agent guy, and also again, I keep on forgetting both their names. Gary Brightwell. If not, a very late round pick. Yeah, like 6th or 7th round, though. Like late in the draft. Like that. But we have those two guys on the roster. I think the Giants might be more wrapped up than you think at this position, Alex. I mean, we got our backup back in Matt Breida. I think the team's looking more to run it back. I might be very much wrong, but it was those 4 guys last year, and I don't have any problem with them sticking with those 4 guys. I mean, when we saw Brightwell in, he did fine. When we saw Corbin have to step up, he did fine. When we saw Breida, he was good. Then we know who Saquon Barkley is.
I just feel like, but you saw Saquon Barkley was playing 85% of the snaps last season. That's not sustainable for him. We want to get him down to 70, maybe even 65% of the snaps.
That's why you move the playbook, and that's why you signed Daniel Jones to a 4-year contract.
Yes, but you need to have a running back in the backfield, right? So whether that is Matt Breida or another guy. Yeah, but that doesn't change whether he's out there running routes or running, getting the ball and running himself. He's still out on the field 85% of the time. That doesn't change whether or not the Giants go to a more pass heavy offense or not.
Right. I mean, I don't think drafting a 5th round running back is going to help you with that. You want them to draft a 5th round when
I think so. This is one of the deeper running back classes in a long time. I think
get a position of need.
You have 10 other picks to do that. You have 10 picks. You have 10 other picks besides the 1 pick I'm suggesting you use on a running back.
Don't you want to stack up on cornerbacks, which we're lacking? Don't you want to stack up on interior offensive linemen, which we're lacking? I mean, Wyatt Davis is really going to do the job?
I do want to do that, but what I'm saying is we have 10 other picks to do that. Like, we can spare 1 on a running back. We're not taking quarterback. We're not taking a tackle. We're not taking, we're not taking a safety, most likely. We're not taking, I'm trying to think. Probably not going to take an interior guy. Maybe we'll take an interior guy. We're not going to take a kicker. We're not going to take a punter. So I think there's options here to draft a running back. And I think it makes sense in the deepest running back class when a lot of these positions are really, really weak in the draft, where it makes sense to sign some of those players in free agency, in my opinion. I think if you can get a guy who can really run between the tackles more. Matt Breida is more of a finesse guy in terms of how he can get to the outside, his speed, his quickness, but he's not going to fight for those really, really tough yards while getting, dragged down by 300-pound interior linemen.
We can agree to disagree on that. That's fine. We'll move on here because we don't need to spend all our day talking about the
Matt Breida discussion.
Yeah, exactly. We can talk about one unfortunate Giants depart, and that was center Nick Gates, who signed a 3-year, $16.5 million deal. It'll be up to $18 million with those incentives, $8 million guaranteed. Staying in the NFC East, going to the Washington Commanders, which honestly is the best place he could have went if he was going to stay in the NFC East. Let's be honest here. Him in a Cowboys or an Eagles uniform, I don't think he would even do that to Giants fans. I think, honestly, if those two teams, offered him a deal, Nick Gates is such a chirper that I honestly think he probably has hatred for those two teams. I'm not even going to lie to you. And he'll continue that hatred now with the Commanders. it's really sad to see, but honestly, good for him being able to make in the teenage digits of millions of dollars wise, especially coming back from that gruesome injury we know the season ago. Everyone's heard the story. We've talked about the story on the podcast, but just remarkable that he's able to get that deal and continue playing football for another franchise, probably as a starter.
Yeah, I mean, this is, great for him. Looking at it from a Giants perspective, you would never bring him back for this type of money. It just doesn't make sense for a guy who I'd say is more of a borderline starter at this point in the NFL. I love his story. I think he's a great guy in the locker room. He's not the greatest offensive lineman in terms of his production. So I think this is a great deal for him personally. But for the Giants, I don't think it made sense for them to match a deal like this that could lead up to about $6 million a year almost. It just doesn't really make sense for a guy who would be competing for a starting role when there's a lot of guys out there right now that you could probably pay $6 million for, and I feel like you could get them and they could be starters, such as Mark Lewinsky, who's getting paid just under $7 million, I believe, right now, similar cost, and is I feel like a higher end interior guy. So happy for Nick Gates, great recovery, amazing story what he's done, and obviously I wish him all the best. Don't wish the Commanders the best, but I wish him the best. And hopefully he has a successful rest of his career, and glad that he got the bag, man.
Yeah, I think with this money, Alex, they're going to somehow make it that Nick Gates ends up starting for the team.
He'll
for
start.
How much they're paying him.
He'll start, yeah.
So we'll have to see what happens there. All right, let's get to the fun part of this episode now. That is the new Giants that have been brought in by the team. We have two guys here, and we have some stuff on them. All right, let's start out with the first signing of the day, which was defensive lineman Rakeem Nunez-Roches. 3 years, $12 million, $7.5 million guaranteed. Let's see. Nunez-Roches, 29 years old, 8-year veteran in the NFL, played in 102 games, 38 starts for the Chiefs and Buccaneers. He has 3.5 career sacks. Actually, let me start this. Let me preface this by saying you're going to get a lot of information thrown at you right now. Okay, so just take it in right now, and I guess we can kind of we'll break
digest
it
it later.
Yeah, we'll digest it later, exactly, and we'll give you the more like keys to why the Giants signed these guys after we give you all the stats and info numbers wise. So he was brought in to help with run defense, and that's going to be what we're going to talk about later. In 2022, he had 21 stops, 11 pressures, 2 sacks. 2021, he had 10 stops, 16 pressures, no sacks. Same thing with 2020, no sacks there, but he had 10 stops and 12 pressures. And honestly, this defensive lineman, Nunez-Roches, is signed. Yes, the money, it's a good amount of money, and it's a 3-year deal. It's a backup defensive line role, though. Second, maybe even probably third string for the Giants team where he's going to slot in.
Probably second. I'd assume he'd get a decent amount of reps. I mean, he's been.
We'll
think
see.
about that Buccaneers defensive line, which they have a lot of strength there. But with Vita Vea, who else do they have there? They had JPP for a while. They had some guys there, and he was, getting regular snaps. So I do think that he's going to be kind of a change of pace from Dexter Lawrence when he's trying to get out, or Leonard Williams needs a breather. So I think this guy is someone who could produce. At a decent level, a much better level than someone like Justin Ellis, for example, who we had last season. You see in 2022.
Yeah, I guess he'll slot in as number 2. That's right, instead of Ellis.
And as not Justin Ellis, but you could see in 2022, he really made a big step up in all of his numbers in terms of his production, even his pass rushing production. He had more than half of his career sacks in 2022, and he's been in the NFL for 8 years. So it kind of seems like he could be a possible like late bloomer. I'm not saying he's going to be Aaron Donald, but I think he could be a nice rotational piece for this team. And it's always good. Joe Schoen made it clear that this defensive line depth was a huge issue. It was a huge issue last season. Dexter Lawrence was playing 95% of the snaps. It was ridiculous. It looked, the poor guy was gassed at every second. He could barely talk during the press conference. He was so tired. I think this makes sense, and hopefully he can really help in the run game, which we know that's his strong suit, and maybe he can develop nicely. He is 29, but it's never too late to develop certain parts of your skill set, and maybe the pass rushing game could be that side of him that has been yet to be unlocked, some could say.
Yeah, exactly. And with that being said, I think we'll move to the next guy here. Is a linebacker. The Giants have adjusted linebacker position. This was a big signing, their first splash of the offseason, and hopefully more to come tomorrow, or maybe even tonight. I hope not tonight. Tomorrow, please. Bobby Okereke, 4 years, $40 million, $22 million of those dollars are guaranteed. 6'1", 235 pounds, 26 years old. Why do the Giants know him? Why does that name maybe sound familiar to a few of you? Well, he had a famous late hit on Daniel Jones in Week 17, which went for unnecessary roughness. So I guess, how do you get on another team's radar to sign you and pay you millions of dollars? Well, just hit their quarterback really hard, send them to the ground, do some helmet-to-helmet contact, and hope and pray that they'll remember your name. And then you'll eventually get a deal when you did it an illegal hit. I guess that's how you do it.
Have a damn good game against them as well, right?
Exactly. With 17 tackles in that game, held Saquon to 2 receptions for -5 yards. There is some tape on YouTube of that game against the Giants. If you want to go watch it, just look up his name, Bobby Okereke, and you'll find it. Those tackles, I mean, very good tackler, very good run stuffer. And I guess I'll do the next bullet point, Alex, and you can take over from there. Okereke faced the most targets out of any linebacker in 2022, 78, allowing -2.3 receptions over expected and 5.9 yards per target.
Let me just translate that. -2.3 receptions over expected. I have no idea why they're wording it like that. Basically, he allowed 2.3 receptions less than expected. If you think it's kind of like saying the opposite of the opposite, if that makes any sense. It's like a double negative. Don't worry about it. I just explained it there. I was really excited about this signing. I did not think that the Giants were going to be interested in Okereke. He was kind of like a guy who was on my radar, but I thought if they were going to go with Okereke, he was kind of up there with the Bobby Wagner, Tremaine Edmonds tier of linebackers, in my opinion, compared, I think, like the TJ Edwards, the David Long tier. Who else is there? The Eric Kendricks tier, that type of tier of linebacker. I thought he was kind of in between those two tiers, so it was kind of an awkward position where he was. So I thought the Giants wouldn't really target him, hence why I didn't have him in the predictions. I know it's like a whole long excuse for myself, but trust me, this was my thinking. But anyway, I was really excited. I think Okereke is a great player, a developing player too, who's only 26 years old. He's got a lot of career ahead of him, and I think he's a guy who can just improve and really shine in the Wink Martindale's defensive system. I'm going to continue here talking about a few more stats. He generated 75 defensive stops in 2022, which is tied for 10th among linebackers. And here's a sad, but I guess good stat, depending on how you look at it. Last season, all of the Giants linebackers combined for 87 stops. So only 12 more than Okereke himself alone had all season. So that's a interesting one right there. But I guess good going forward, bad in the past. In 17 games and 16 starts in 2022, he had a career high 151 tackles. He had 122, I believe, in 2021, including 99 solo and 6 tackles for loss. He also had 5 passes defended and 2 forced fumbles in 2022 with a pick on Mac Jones. I know that tape is also going around quite a bit on Twitter. Okereke has an overall grade on PFF of 73.3 and a 79.3 as a run defender specifically. And from a guy on the Colts beat, Okereke has been one of the best defenders and overall players for the Indianapolis Colts since joining the team in 2019. So high praise there from one of their beat writers. Super excited. This guy is really a sideline to sideline backer. He's your do-it-all guy. He's quick. He's great in the run. He's probably not the strongest in pass coverage, but can do a job. Did very well against Saquon Barkley, and he's certainly not an easy guy to cover out of the backfield. I think he's going to be a flexible, guy in terms of what he can do for this Giants defense. He hasn't really had the only thing I would say is he hasn't had a lot of experience blitzing from the middle linebacker position, which is something Wink Martindale does a lot. It'll be interesting to see how he does in that type of role. So that's kind of what I'm most excited to see, because he just didn't do that a lot in the Colts defense. So I'm excited to see how he translates here to the Wink Martindale defense, because he got all the physical tools that Wink Martindale likes in his Mike linebackers. So super excited about that. The pay, $40 million over 4 years, obviously 22 of it guaranteed. Guaranteed money is not a problem, but $10 million a year average, is certainly a lot. We're going to talk a little bit in a second about some of the other linebacker contracts that happened over today, and it does seem a little bit high compared to some of those other guys in terms of value. Besides one guy, Tremaine Edmonds, who we'll talk about, he definitely got the bag, but the Bears had a lot of cap space. But I think overall it was a good deal. I don't think it was a steal, but I think it was a good, solid deal, and it was good value. But I don't think it was as good as maybe some of the other deals that some other teams got done at the linebacker. But I do think he is one of the best linebackers in this free agent class.
So let's do the takeaways for these two guys, starting off with Nunez-Roches. The main takeaway here is the Giants signed him to address their run defense. I believe it was the 27th ranked run defense last season as a team. By bringing in Nunez-Roches here, who's going to get playing time, he's definitely going to dramatically affect that, or at least we hope.
Yeah, and Nunez-Roches, I feel like we didn't address what his compensation was. He got 3 years, $12 million, 7.5 guaranteed. So that is $4 million a year for anyone. I believe there is an out after 2 years, according to the beat reporters.
And then the other guy here, obviously Bobby Okereke, that's just filling in a gap at a linebacker role that the Giants just had youngsters at. They need to be backups while he's a starter, a seasoned veteran, and a very good veteran at that. Although he doesn't have much experience at the outside linebacker position, he does have a lot of experience at the inside linebacker position. He is versatile, though. He's able to play both positions if necessary. However, the inside linebacker position fits him better, I guess you could say, in coverage more with running backs, tight ends, etc. But he is able to make tackles and play zone coverage, which he mainly played with the Colts. Zone coverage was his specialty, like Alex said. Not no experience blitzing, not much experience blitzing, because the Colts defense ran mostly zone schemes, which is when he would drop back, and that's why he got all those tackles, whether it was tackling running backs out of the backfield or wide receivers and tight ends when he was in zone coverage. Wink Martindale, he's still the defensive coordinator of the New York Giants. It's going to be a lot of blitzing, a lot of getting used to a different system for Okereke. That's just how it works with the NFL with NFL players. He's going to be fine. But it's going to be a little bit different than going full zone, because Martindale's actually zone coverage mixed with blitzing. So it's a little bit different there. Yeah. But anyway, that's the takeaways for those two guys. The new signings.
Okereke also only has missed 2 games in 4 years, so very durable. So that's another positive for him.
So those are the 2 signings the Giants made on at least this first day. Monday, March 13th of free agency. We'll see what happens tomorrow or again later tonight. Let's talk about some of the Giants' targets who actually did not go to New York. Defensive end Zach Allen, 3 years, $46 million, $32.5 million guaranteed. We should have the teams here.
Oh, yes. He went to the Broncos. Yes, I realized that. Sorry about that. I can tell you what teams they went to.
He's got it all memorized.
I've got it all memorized. We got CB or cornerback Jamel Dean. He went for 4 years, $52 million. He's returning to the Buccaneers. Linebacker Tremaine Edmonds, a big name, popular name for Giants fans, obviously ex-Bill, which means the connection with Joe Shane and Brian Dable. He is going to the Bears on a 4-year, $72 million deal, $50 million guaranteed. That's a front-loaded contract, according to Ian Rappaport. Jermaine Pratt is on a 3-year, $21 million deal. He's coming back to the Bengals. CB Cam Sutton, a former Pittsburgh Steeler, one of the best cornerbacks in this free agent class. He signed a 3-year, $33 million deal, 22.5 of it guaranteed, and he is going over to Detroit and joining the Lions. Guard Ben Powers signed a 4-year, $52 million deal, 28.5 of it guaranteed, heading to Broncos country. And linebacker TJ Edwards is on a 3-year, $19.5 million deal, 12 million of it guaranteed, and he is also going to the Bears, forming a nice duo there with Tremaine Edmonds.
Yep.
So big spenders today, certainly the Bears and the Broncos. Don't know where the Broncos got the cap room from. We'll never know. Maybe it just doesn't exist. I'm dumbfounded, but them and the Bears, big spenders.
What was the big takeaway, though, Alex, that you really worried about, or not worried about, that you were very excited about from this free agency start?
I was very excited because the Eagles, I believe, have lost 4 players and counting. Hardgrave is gone. Their tackle, I forget his name now, is gone. One of their interior offensive linemen is gone. Their safety, Epps, is gone. It's It's very good. They still got like 4 other starters who are still free agents, haven't signed anywhere yet. Hopefully they go and, get money and screw the Eagles. It's a beautiful day. We upgraded one of probably the biggest position of need besides wide receiver.
Yeah.
And
which we could very well address in the draft.
Yeah. So, and the wide receiver class, it's just so thin, and not a single wide receiver has been signed yet, by the way.
So well, because there aren't, I mean, this is a very low level free agency class when it comes to wide receivers. I mean, the top wide receiver in free agency right now, like Juju,
Kobe Myers, Juju. Yeah, probably. I mean, it's a staring contest right now. A lot of these guys are asking for a lot of money because they know there's not a lot of competition out there. And these teams are like, well, I don't really want to do that. And there has been rumors that some of these receivers are on the trade block. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, possibly. We know the Giants are very interested in Jerry Jeudy. Quick question here: would you do Jerry Jeudy for a 2nd-round pick?
We talked about. What's really funny? I was like, when I first saw that report, and I was like, we talked about this before. It's because we're in this exact same situation. Yeah, I know.
Would you do it? 2nd-round pick, 57th overall.
Yes,
I would also do it. I know that's just like been a poll going
injury
around.
Concerns is the only thing that scares me, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Gotta risk it, I feel like, to get a receiver at this point. Daniel Jones needs some weapons, I think. But anyway, I don't think he's going to get traded personally. It doesn't really make sense. So don't think it's going to happen. But wanted to throw it out there. Yeah,
so I'm looking at NBC Sports List, Alex, and we covered 1 and 2 on there. Myers 1, Juju 2. That is pretty crazy to me that Jacoby Myers, who's like a debatable number 1 wide receiver when he was on the Patriots, is number 1 in free agency when it comes to wide receiver. It's such a thin area there. Then it's Allen Lazard. Then it's Darius Slayton of the New York Giants, who was like,
he's going to get paid.
He was our 3rd string, basically, wide receiver when after Isaiah Hodgins and Richie James were brought in. Mid-season signings were higher placed on our depth chart than
I think Richie James is going to get paid too. I think he'll get some decent money as well.
Yeah, because he's like in a top 10, top 15 wide receivers in free agency. And I mean, actually, we'll see. Once that first wide receiver gets signed, maybe it's to the Giants tomorrow. Let's see. We'll have to wait. But I think that sets the tone for how much wide receivers are going to get paid, because if it's a lot, because the class is so is it a free agency class? Do you call it a class?
Free agency class, just like a draft class. Yeah.
So if a wide receiver gets paid tomorrow, that sets the tone for this free agency class. I think it's either going to be very little or very high. I really don't think there's going to be a middle ground there, because it's either very little because these guys are not top tier talents, or it'll be very high because it's so thin that they're just like, well, listen, their agents are going to say, well, listen, you can go look elsewhere, but there's not many of us here that are top tier talents, number 1, number 2 wide receivers. So you're going to have to pay me a lot of money. I think it's one of the two.
Yeah. A guy like Jacoby Myers has a ton of leverage right now for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he can say, and
this is no disrespect to him, by the way. He's a very good receiver, right? Yeah. But I think he's going to go back to the Patriots. Personally, I think that's just where it makes sense for them, because they're going to be left with literally no wide receivers if they don't bring him back. So I think that's what's going to happen. But certainly interesting how this wide receiver market's shaping out.
Yeah, and then did you see the reports with Aaron Rodgers today too? That's kind of the last thing I have.
I literally have no comments. I have no idea what he's doing. I don't know why the Jets are so desperate for a 1-year rental of Aaron Rodgers. I don't understand it.
Zach Wilson right now is so like, imagine that guy. I mean, not like he's a great guy anyway. I mean, we know his personal life, but we don't need to get into that on here. But I mean, you see Sauce on his like Twitch and his Twitter. And
like imagine your teammates. Like
imagine your own teammates. Just like,
not that I feel bad, but like,
no, I mean, I don't care. He's making millions. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens with Rodgers. I would like him to come to the Jets. It'll be fun. I mean, they're not in our division. They're not in our conference even. We barely play them.
Yeah.
Play them
they need 3 Super Bowls to catch up to us, so we're good.
We're fine. But anyway, yeah, so that's going to do it for this episode of the Giant Take Podcast. We thank you so much for listening and watching, if you're watching. All I have to say is that I hope the Giants go out there and sign a wide receiver. And honestly, Alex, they don't have to do anything else in this free agency window if they want to. Just sign me like a Paris Campbell. I'm really actually hoping for Paris Campbell, and it's not good because I feel like they're not going to sign him, and I'm going to get really sad.
Or they sign him and overpay him.
I'm really getting on this Paris Campbell signing train right now, and I don't like it because it's not good to think about like a single guy. It's like the draft where you fall in love with these guys in the first round, and yet there's, for us at least, at this pick like 25 right spots before us,
Mhm.
before we're up, where they could easily get snagged, or the Giants just don't even take him if he's up there. But yeah, sign me a wide receiver, New York Giants, and that's it. You don't have to spend any more money. You could just wait till the draft, and I'd be happy. You agree?
Yeah, agreed. But don't overpay for a wide receiver. I'd rather they don't even sign one than overpay for one.
Yeah, so linebacker check in day one. Let's see if wide receiver gets a check
Defensive
mark.
line depth check, but I think there's going to be more of that.
True. Yeah, because I mean, when Shane said at the press conference at the scouting combine that it was a weak position, you knew that immediately.
I think a couple are going to get drafted as well, so that's going to be another thing.
All right, we're over 30 minutes
anyway,
here. We keep on going.
Let's finish.
Thank you so much for listening or watching. Subscribe, drop a like on the video on YouTube, hit that 5 stars on wherever you're listening. shipstudios.com/giant take is gonna be where you want to go to find more places to listen. Social media, Twitter and TikTok, The Giant Take Pod. Instagram and Facebook, The Giant Take Podcast. And all that info is going to be in the description, podcast, notes, whatever you want to call it. Thanks so much for listening or watching. We'll see you next time. Oh, I took out a spot. I don't care.
Peace.